Hi everyone, how are you all doing? Hope you're having a nice Sunday. I'm just sitting down by the stream having had a long drive today, so I thought I'd just come down here and do a little bit of grounding. And just the sound of the water is very calming. And the water the water on the leaves of the bramble leaves flickering. And I was thinking, we don't have to go anywhere to reconnect with nature. I mean, we don't have to go far from home. We can even just sit in our gardens, or, if you have a river close by, or the sea close by, or a mountain stream, we can connect with the water as well. I have a quote on my website by Alberto Violdo, who is a shamanic guide, practitioner, teacher, and he teaches South American shamanism, Peruvian. And he says there is only one disease and one cure. And the disease, all diseases, stem from a disconnection to nature. And all cures are based in our reconnection to nature. And I think this is just so true. We've been in this century particularly, become more and more isolated from nature, especially if you live in a city or a big town. It's not so easy to spend your days out in nature in unpolluted air. And consequently, people are getting, inflammation, diseases, cancers, just their bodies are not in their optimum health in order to fight off any viruses or bacteria or things like that. And so people get sick more easily. And I recently, last couple of days, watched a video, a podcast with, it was a Joe Rogan interview with Zac Bush. Now, I really admire Zac Bush. He was if you don't know who he was a scientist or a medical researcher, if you like. He's a qualified doctor, and he did lots of research into cancers and why cells get them and what's the cure. And he discovered that no amount of chemicals really did the trick, and that the thing that cured people mostly was rebalancing their internal flora, fauna, making sure that everything was working properly within the body. And a lot of that stems from being in nature regularly. And if you haven't listened to that podcast, it's well worth a listen. Both Joe and Zac are very knowledgeable, interesting people, and the conversation around health and a connection to nature is really interesting. And so, my thoughts are just this, on this Sunday afternoon, that we don't really have to travel too far in order to be able to walk out into nature and just spend half an hour a day. If you don't have a dog, get one, because that gets you outside. Or to just walk, or to meet up with friends and walk, and, it's so beneficial. And particularly getting your feet in the water, or getting your feet or hands in the soil, gardening. Zac was just pointing out that I think there was a case It was in Cambodia when they sprayed everything with that Agent Orange or whatever it's called, that hideous chemical that absolutely killed, devastated the landscape, and all the people had to be removed. And those people that were removed were kind of isolated from each other. They were put in kind of camps where they had no access to their land anymore, and they got sick. And you know, there's an argument that it was the Agent Orange that made them sick, but also there's a kind of control experiment, if you like it, although it wasn't an experiment, of some of these people being taken to America. And Zac in his childhood was privy to these people being allowed to live their lives as they would have done in their own country, able to grow food and to, you know, tend the land and to be in community. And none of those people got sick. They didn't contract cancer. So he was just saying that, you know, it's a profound comparison to the people who were left behind, who were isolated, who weren't allowed to work their land anymore, did get sick, and the ones who, you know, moved and were kept in community and worked their land didn't get sick. And I found that, you know, in my own life especially, you know, if I'm, not that I've ever lived in a completely isolated situation. I mean, I lived in London for 15 years, but I lived near a park, so it was very easy for me to get out and to walk every day. But I find that if I am not surrounded by nature, or I don't make a special effort to go out into nature, not only do, from a mental perspective, you know, that I get to feel really kind of fed up and low, but also I start getting colds, which I rarely get, but you know, I had noticed that, you know, living in London, and actually latterly, you know, every time I go to Malta, if I'm confined to the concrete blocks of apartments and in that kind of dense building construction site, oh, I feel terrible. And it only takes a couple of days for me to go into that kind of, oh my goodness, you get me out of here. So my point is that just really, if you haven't listened to that Zac Bush podcast with Joe Rogan, do go and listen to it. It's long, so you can do it in, you know, whatever time you have available, 20 minutes at a time or something, like I do. But it's well worth a listen to just appreciate, through his very easy to understand explanations of humans' capacity to heal themselves when they are communing with nature and doing what we're supposed to do, you know, building with our hands, making things with our hands, growing things, walking barefoot if you can do that, or do like I do and put your feet in the water. And it's profound, actually, the way that once our bodies begin to be a part of nature again, how they heal. And that's all I'm going to say. On this beautiful day, it just occurred to me that I don't really have to go very far to just be in the water, to watch the stones, to see the kingfishers zipping up and down here, to just feel that elation when nature comes to me. It's really lovely. Anyway, have a lovely rest of your Sunday. Ciao for now.